This is the Cholo News Report for Monday 09 April 2018. The death toll from yesterday's suspected chemical weapons attack in Douma, Syria, rises to at least 70, according to the White Helmets Group. The Syrian government and Russia deny the allegations of a chemical attack. As the allegations emerged, Syria's state news agency SANA said the reports were invented by the Jaish al-Islam rebels, who remain in control in Douma. Jaish al-Islam terrorists are in a state of collapse, and their media outlets are making chemical attack fabrications in an exposed and failed attempt to obstruct advances by the Syrian Arab Army, SANA said. In April 2017, more than 80 people died in a sarin attack on the opposition-held town of Khan Sheikhoun, and a joint inquiry by the UN and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons held the Syrian government responsible. US President Donald Trump warns Russia and Iran for backing Bashar al-Assad and calls him Animal Assad. 9 countries have called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss the reports the UK, France, the United States, Poland, Netherlands, Sweden, Kuwait, Peru and Ivory Coast. Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson described the allegations of a chlorine gas attack in the rebel holdout as deeply disturbing and called for an immediate investigation by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Despite Russia's promise in 2013 to ensure Syria would abandon all of its chemical weapons, international investigators mandated by the UN Security Council have found the Assad regime responsible for using poison gas in at least 4 separate attacks since 2014. A missile attack strikes the Syrian T4 air base. It is not yet known who carried out the attack. Several people have died or were hurt after a Syrian military airport was hit by missiles, state media said, amid international alarm over a suspected chemical attack on a rebel-held town. But this time round, the Russians are warning of dire consequences if the West uses this alleged chemical weapon attack as a pretext to intervene in Syria. Israeli Defense Forces fire shells at Palestinians on foot near the border fence, saying the men had crossed the fence before entering the Gaza Strip near Gaza City. 9 Palestinians were killed during demonstrations Friday on the Gaza-Israel border fence, with almost 300 wounded, all by live fire. The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, says conduct by both Israel and Hamas may amount to war crimes and warns anybody violating international law may face prosecution. While Palestinian organizers say their weekly marches are intended to be peaceful, Hamas is publicly backing the protests, and Israel argues that Hamas is encouraging its operatives to carry out offensive operations, including efforts to breach the border fence, bombings, and shootings, under cover of the protests. The army conducted similar investigations of this level following the 2014 Gaza war and after a United Nations peacekeeper was accidentally shot dead in 2015, during a clash between Israeli troops and the Hezbollah terrorist group. Earlier, soldiers monitoring closed-circuit cameras spotted the 3 men as they broke through the border, and then later crossed back into Gaza, the army said. On Sunday night, the army said soldiers found the 2 bombs, which appeared to be rigged out of plastic drinking bottles full of an explosive liquid with a detonator. The week before, more than 30,000 people participated in a similar demonstration along the border, which also included multiple attempts to tear down a security fence and to plant explosives alongside it, according to the IDF. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman asks Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit to probe NGO B'Tselem for incitement to disobedience, for asking Israeli troops at the border to refuse orders. B'Tselem accuses Lieberman in response of a deep contempt for basic moral principles, and reiterates its call for IDF personnel to refuse to carry out manifestly illegal orders.